my name's Melissa, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation on the evaluation of equity in urban development. Today I'll be talking to you about the research and background I have found, the analysis of outcomes, an evaluation of the impact, personal insights and critique, and finally, how I came about this project. First, an introduction of what I will be talking about today. Firstly, I am doing an analysis on Ohio's residential tax abatement policy and community benefits agreements. For a little overview of the policy, in 2018, the City of Columbus revised its residential tax abatement policy to incorporate community benefits agreements, otherwise known as CBAs. This was aiming to balance economic growth with equitable development. Under the new policy, developers seeking a 15-year, 100% tax abatement on new residential construction must agree to provide benefits such as affordable housing, local hiring, or minority business engagement. This policy was particularly significant for Columbus, a city experiencing rapid population growth and rising housing costs. This information is from the City of Columbus Department of Development. This policy is important because the updated tax abatement policy is crucial for understanding how local governments navigate the tensions between encouraging investment and ensuring inclusive community development. It reflects Columbus's strategic attempt to control gentrification and displacement while still remaining attractive to developers. This information is from Greater Ohio Policy Center. Now let's get into the research and background I have found on this policy. So first, the policy rationale. Before the revision, Columbus's blanket tax abatement policy incentivized construction but led to criticism that it primarily benefited wealthy developers and accelerated gentrification, particularly in neighborhoods like Franklinton and the Near East Side. Many residents were concerned that affordable housing and equitable development were not being prioritized. This information comes from the Columbus Dispatch. Next are the policy objectives. The updated policy aimed to achieve three main goals: promote the development of mixed-income housing, ensure economic opportunities for disadvantaged groups, and hold developers accountable for contributing to neighborhood well-being through CBAs. This information all comes from the City of Columbus Department of Development. Finally, policy context. This policy change emerged amid mounting pressures from residents, advocacy groups, and housing analysis concerned about the lack of affordability and the social displacement caused by unchecked development. In 2018, a citywide housing needs assessment showed that Columbus needs over 54,000 affordable housing units by 2030, which prompted action by these developers. This information comes from the Affordable Housing Alliance of Central Ohio within the U.S. Census Bureau. Next, I will be doing an analysis of the outcomes that this policy has had. First are the actual outcomes. Since implementation, more than 40 development projects have included CBAs tied to tax abatements. Some projects have resulted in new affordable housing units and partnerships with local job training programs. However, enforcement of community benefit commitments has been uneven. This information has come from the Greater Ohio Policy Center. Now, here is a comparison of outcomes. While the policy has succeeded in integrating CBAs into many major developments, its effectiveness is in delivering meaningful benefits, especially affordable units at deeply subsidized levels, has been mixed. For instance, some developers offered only the minimal number of affordable units, often at rent levels still out of reach for many low-income residents. This information comes from the Columbus Dispatch. Now I will be talking about the evaluation of impact. This policy has had both positive and negative impacts. First, the positive impacts. It has increased awareness of equity in development. CBAs have led to partnerships with minority contractors and local nonprofits. This information comes from the Greater Ohio Policy Center. While it also has negative impacts. Many benefits offered in CBAs are voluntary and lack legal enforcement mechanisms, limiting accountability. This comes from the Columbus Dispatch. Now, off to the different effects that it has had over here. First, we have economic effects. The policy has helped sustain Columbus's construction boom, contributing to job growth and property value increases in targeted neighborhoods. However, there is limited evidence of long-term job retention or upward mobility among local hires. This comes from the Affordable Housing Alliance of Central Ohio. Next, the social effects. Mixed income housing has slightly diversified, forming gentrified areas, but the gains in racial or economic integration are marginal. The benefits of CBAs have often favored moderate income households over low income ones, leaving vulnerable populations still undeserved. This comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. Next are the environmental effects. New developments have added green space and improved infrastructure in some areas. Another one is the cultural effects. Cultural displacement remains a concern, particularly in historically Black neighborhoods like the King Lincoln Bronzeville district. Both of these bits of information come from the Columbus Dispatch. Finally, the unintended consequences. Some developers have opted out of projects altogether or shifted focus to areas without abatement conditions. This has inadvertently pushed luxury development into neighboring suburbs or outer Columbus neighborhoods where equity controls are looser. This information comes from Greater Ohio Policy Center. Next up, I have my own personal insights and critiques. Some decision-making reflections I made. Columbus leaders show foresight by embedding community benefits into tax incentives. However, the lack of enforcement mechanisms and clear metrics for success reveals a weak follow-through in the policy's design phase. Next, the policy effectiveness. Overall, the policy represents a step in the right direction, but it falls short of being transformative. It effectively raises the floor for what developers must consider, but does not always guarantee meaningful community outcomes. And finally, some broader implications. This case shows that local governments must carefully balance pro-growth strategies with social equity. Policies like CBAs are most effective when backed by strong enforcement, community engagement, and transparency. Columbus's experience can serve as a model and a caution for similar cities navigating rapid development. In conclusion, here is our call to action. For policy leaders, we need to make sure we are enforcing standards and increasing transparency. And for residents, get involved in development hearings and demand accountability and inclusive planning. Because growth without equity is not progress. Here is a summary of my findings. The revised tax abatement policy in Columbus with added CBAs represents a strategic attempt to promote inclusive growth. While it has influenced development practices and community partnerships, its actual impact on affordability and equity has been modest. Enforcement gaps and limited affordability thresholds have undermined its full potential. This information comes from the Affordable Housing Alliance of Central Ohio. And my final thoughts on this policy. This policy reflects both the promise and the limitations of progressive local governance in a fast-growing urban area. It demonstrates that even well-intentioned policies must be paired with structural accountability to truly serve the public good. This information comes from the Greater Ohio Policy Center. Next are my references. Here are all of my references. First is the Affordable Housing Alliance of Central Ohio 2024. Next, the City of Columbus Department of Development of 2018. Then the Columbus Dispatch of 2023, the Greater Ohio Policy Center of 2020, and the U.S. Census Bureau of 2022. Finally, with some help from ChatGPT. Thank you for listening to my presentation. These are different ways to contact me. Only by email, though. The other ones are just for show. Finally, my design statement. For this assignment, I started with the outline given on Moodle. From there, I chose a policy by searching recent policies in Columbus, Ohio. After that, I began researching different scholarly references to find information that correlates to the outline. After collecting information, I had ChatGPT write a slideshow presentation outline on how to properly separate the information to meet the minimum requirements. I then verified my information with ChatGPT and made the presentation. And finally, I checked for grammar issues and made sure everything had a good flow.